SpaceX has traveled a long way and achieved so many goals. Find out everything you need to know about the rise of SpaceX. Hello and welcome to SpaceX Zone. This channel brings you directly to space. So don't forget to like and subscribe for more out-of-space content. SpaceX was founded by Elon Musk in 2002. The story goes as follows. In February of that year, Musk traveled to Russia to look for intercontinental ballistic missiles that could send the payloads into space. He needed a rocket, and that at an affordable price. So he went to Russia 3 times to try to buy his rocket. The Russians offered one for $8 million, which was too expensive for Musk. It was on the return flight from Russia when he did the math on his own. Elon Musk wanted to start building rockets from scratch. Turns out he could start a company which could do just that with only 3% of the sales price for a rocket at that time. He needed some experts in rocket science to make his dream a reality. First, Tom Mueller, one of the leading spacecraft experts, and then Gwen Shotwell, mechanical engineer and an expert in space research and development. On May 6, 2002, SpaceX was officially launched with its headquarters based in California. Elon Musk invested a huge amount of money in his company, with over $100 million.
Not knowing anything about rockets, not having ever built anything, I would have to be insane if I thought the odds were in my favor.
Why even begin?
When something is important enough, you do it even though the odds are not in your favor.
How much of your personal fortune have you poured into this?
$100 million.
SpaceX began developing its rockets and had the first successful test of its Merlin engine in 2003. Falcon 1 was the first rocket named by Elon Musk. It had one Merlin engine on its first stage and a Kestrel engine on its second stage. Both stages used RP-1 as a fuel and liquid oxygen as the oxidizer. The first launch of the Falcon 1 was in November 2003, 15 months after the company started. But unfortunately, he couldn't achieve that goal. But after 3 years of development, Falcon 1 was finally ready to conduct its first launch on 24th of March 2006. But the launch ended in failure less than a minute into the flight. The culprit was a fuel line leak on the first stage after liftoff. The second launch of Falcon 1 carried a demosat instead of a real satellite. It occurred on 24th of March 2007, 1 year after the first launch attempt. This time, the first stage worked out as expected, but unfortunately during staging, the interstage fairing located at the top of the first stage bumped on the second stage engine bell. The flight continued up onto a premature engine shutdown. This all happened at T+7 minutes and 30 seconds, and the Falcon failed to reach the intended orbit. SpaceX attempted its third Falcon 1 launch on the 3rd of August 2008, carrying 2 other nano-satellites and the Trailblazer satellite for the US Air Force along. This time stage separation occurred as planned, but because residual fuel in the new Merlin engine evaporated and provided transient thrust, the first stage recontacted the second stage, preventing SpaceX of a successful mission. SpaceX was almost bankrupt because of the loss of its first 3 rockets. With all the money they had left, SpaceX attempted their 4th launch on 28th of September 2008. The launch took place at Marshall Islands, where the Falcon 1 lifted off with a 165 kg demo satellite. It followed the same trajectory as the previous flight and successfully placed the satellite in orbit. On that evening, SpaceX proved to themselves and to the world that failure is the stepping stone to success. Elon Musk said in an interview, "I don't ever give up. I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated. We've done it." SpaceX thus became the first company to privately develop a rocket and reach the orbit with the successful launch of Falcon 1. After that, SpaceX received contract from NASA to deliver cargo to the ISS, the International Space Station. NASA gave SpaceX a contract of $1.6 billion. The next development was the Falcon 9. This rocket was designed and manufactured by SpaceX and has a 2-stage rocket and 9 Merlin engines on its first stage. On the second stage, there was a vacuum-optimized Merlin on it. The Falcon 9 version 1.0 had a successful test flight on the 4th of June 2010. Only the stage for parachuting it into the ocean failed because the parachute got burned up before it even deployed. SpaceX scored its first big headline in 2010 when it became the first private company to launch a payload into orbit and return it to Earth intact, something only government agencies like NASA or Russia's Roscosmos had done before. In 2011, Elon Musk first publicized concrete plans for the Falcon Heavy, a super heavy lift-class rocket. According to the plans at the time, this was the rocket that could carry 53,000 kilograms of payload into low Earth orbit. It was to make its first test flight in 2013. However, this was postponed several times and the design would change considerably. The Falcon Heavy would not debut until 2018. In 2011, SpaceX eliminated the parachutes and went with a propulsively powered descent approach. A reusable first stage was then flight tested by SpaceX with the suborbital Grasshopper rocket. On the 22nd of December 2015, Falcon 9 successfully launched the Orbcomm satellite into orbit and landed its booster stage on the ground pad located in California. This became the first vertical landing of an orbital-class rocket. Did you know that today a single Falcon 9 launch would cost $62 million? This is much cheaper compared to other launch vehicles like the New Horizons that cost $700 million in the past. From 2010 to 2016, the Falcon 9 had a couple of design changes. Since June 2010, rockets from the Falcon 9 family have been launched 127 times, with 125 full mission successes, 1 partial failure and 1 total loss of spacecraft. On February 6, 2018, the Falcon 9 carried a Tesla Roadster with a dummy Starman in the car as payload and sent them into orbit around the Sun. The vehicle has traveled far enough to drive all of the world's roads 79.8 times. Also, the Falcon Heavy successfully landed the 2 booster stages on ground pads, whereas the core stage failed to land on the drone ship. The reliability and the success rate of the 3 Falcon Heavy launched were a huge improvement. Also, SpaceX bought the contract from NASA to launch astronauts to the International Space Station. NASA announced on the 16th of September 2014 that SpaceX has been selected to provide crew transportation to the space station, a contract of $2.6 billion. SpaceX developed its Crew Dragon spacecraft for the standards required by NASA to send astronauts to the space station. On May 30, 2020, SpaceX successfully launched 2 NASA astronauts, Douglas Hurley and Robert Behnken, into orbit, making SpaceX the first private company to send astronauts to the International Space Station. In 2016, Starship system development began as a self-funded private spaceflight project. This was 4 years after work began on the Raptor rocket engine that powers both stages. The first prototype to feature a nose cone and flaps flew to an altitude of 12.5 kilometers in December 2020. It belly flopped back to Earth, giving SpaceX valuable engineering data about the final part of the vehicle's return from space. However, SN8 approached the landing pad a little too fast and hard, causing it to crumple and explode. 3 more test articles exploded before Starship SN15 achieved success with a soft landing in May 2021. Elon Musk has promised a lunar excursion in 2023 to the Japanese online retail billionaire Yusaku Maezawa. Mr. Maezawa will fly around the moon in a spaceship with 8 other individuals, and Starship will carry astronauts from lunar orbit to the surface of the moon as part of NASA's Artemis 3 mission, which is also targeted for 2024. Even if the SpaceX founder's timelines have seemed optimistic at times, he has also developed a reputation for eventually achieving his goals, no matter how ambitious. And one day, he is still aiming to go to Mars. Thanks for watching and see you at Mars!